Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's Opsview webinar on business service monitoring. I'm Helen Carroll, VP of Marketing, and joining me today is Neill Collie, one of our Opsview consultants. We are recording today's session, so we will share the recording with everyone tomorrow. Please can I ask that you stay on mute during the session, and please ask any questions via the chat facility. Neill, over to you, thank you.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks everyone for joining today. I'd just like to go through a short intro and dive into BSM, or business service monitoring. We'll go through its intended purpose, what it's for, how we set it up, and then a little bit of usage and what you can do with it. Like Helen says, we should have plenty of time at the end of the session for some questions. So if any questions come up, please use the WebEx chat, and we'll take care of them at the end. Okay, so BSM, or business service monitoring, gives us a high-level enhanced overview of our system, and this lets us easily see the impact of an outage or a failure or an issue. And it also adds in a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of smarts to our monitoring, so we can understand resiliency and availability and redundancy for things like clusters or farms or pods or whatever it is we've got. So if we've got a few database servers making up a cluster, and we know that 60% of them can service the load of our application, then we can build that into our BSM. And we can also set BSM-wide actions, so things like downtime and status, and investigate things like downtime and status with our BSM that way. What we do is we group services and hosts together as an overall, what we call business unit, and this is what provides the higher level overview into our system. It might be something we care about, like our company website, or perhaps an application or service specific to a team within your organization. So your sales team might use a number of applications. You could build out a BSM that shows you those BSMs. I think the best way to demonstrate that is to dive right in. So this is our training environment, and this is the custom view you get when you first log into an Opsview system. So we've got our hosts here on the left, and our service checks here on the right. So we can see all of our statuses here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on some of our web servers today. And if we have an issue on one of these web servers, we'll be able to see it, but what we won't be able to see is just how big of an issue or how big of an impact that actually causes us. So maybe if one of our service checks go down here, all we see is another critical in the list. We don't know exactly how bad that impact is. We don't know who that's affecting, and we don't know how bad that impact is. But if we go to our BSM view, we can see that. We can see that our BSM view has a tiny little exclamation point here to indicate that something has been affected, something has been impacted. So we know from here that our company website and our engineering team's platform has been impacted by the issue that we see here, so this critical alert here. We want to see what happens when a potentially worse issue happens. So if a second server goes down, or another service impacting failure comes up, we want to see just how bad the impact is. This is where BSM is really useful. This is where it excels, because it shows you straight away that something not quite right has occurred. We can see that we've got 1 of 5 components failed. We can see exactly which services are impacted, and we can see just how bad it is. These are down. They're not just impacted. So we know that we have to go and investigate them as soon as possible and investigate straight away. So to build that functionality up, we use components. Our business services are made up of components, and it's these that provide the visibility into the service checks that are being monitored. So for those of you who've been on some of these courses before, a service check is just something that we care about, and a host is a system within Opsview. Host template is simply a collection of service checks that we can then assign to a specific host so that we can monitor our host consistently and use the service checks we need. So when we build out these components, we tell each component to use a specific host template, and then we can build out that extra logic, that fault tolerance, that availability, and that resiliency. So let's see, I've just fixed one of these, so everything's gone back green. If we go to configuration and BSM, we can see just how we have we've gone about setting this up. So the first thing we do is look at the existing business services here. So I've got website, engineering, marketing, and sales. I've just made 4 relatively simple BSMs, and we can see them. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. We can see them. If I click monitoring and then BSM summary, we can see the same 4 here: sales, marketing, engineering, website. And each of these business services use the components. So we've got our little components tab here on the right. And if we're building out a component, we want to use a host template. So I've gone and created a BSM specific Apache host template. And this is useful because whilst we do want to say, if I take a look at the MySQL one, that's a good example. I've got 5 MySQL servers, and I've got an existing MySQL host template that monitors, say, hop to the navigator page here, that monitors around 40 MySQL service checks. And I don't necessarily need to be monitoring 40 MySQL service checks as part of my BSM. What I'm interested in is the critical ones, so whether or not MySQL is actually running, so whether its status is okay or not, whether it's actually performing, whether its performance is okay, and whether or not there's an active connection, for example. So what I've done is created a BSM specific MySQL host template, and I know a lot of our customers do this when they're creating BSMs. They create or clone a host template, but then just remove some of the service checks they don't necessarily need. So then this is just providing visibility into the critical service checks that we need to make sure that our service is actually online. And then you may have spotted already that we've got our 5 hosts. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 MySQL servers here. I've got 4 Apache servers, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple of routers, 1 Hyper-V VM host, and 4 storage servers. And each of these components, we can select the systems we want in here. So I've selected all 4 Apache servers. And here is where we select our operational zone. This is where we decide the fault tolerance. So out of the 4 hosts I've got, I know that my company website and my engineering front end can function if 1 system is down. If 2 go down, then the whole show falls apart because there's not enough capacity there to handle the load. So I know that I need at least 3 online. I can have 1 fail, so that gives me an operational zone of 75%. So when I'm happy with that, I've updated it, I do a quick apply changes, and that's my BSM configured. It's all based off of existing host templates. And our host templates use these components. So I've got my 5 components. I could create another one using a existing host template or another BSM specific host template, but I'm going to stick with the 5 I've got. And it's these 5 that we'll then use to make up our BSM groups. So we've got my website here at the top, engineering, marketing, and sales. And the big thing here is that the components we make are intended to be reusable. So we see that this Apache stack here, my 4 web servers, and say, for example, my 5 database servers. These are intended to be reusable, so it's the same component, so it's the same servers and the same service checks that we're using when we build out these BSMs. So what that means is, if my web servers go down, or if I have an issue with my web servers, we can see who's affected. We can see that both these are affected by the same component being offline. So we've got enhanced visibility into any issues. We know what effect that that website going down or that Apache stack having an issue will have. And we can see here that all components are now operational on all of my existing BSMs, because they use the same components. So these components are intended to be shared. So this Apache stack is here for both engineering and website, and you'll notice that it's not in marketing or sales. There's no Apache stack in our marketing or sales internal organizations, because they don't use, in our hypothetical scenario, they don't use those Apache servers. So that's how we get the enhanced visibility. So I've got my operational zone for both. It's going to always be 75% because it's the exact same component for both the website and our engineering site. Operational zone is 75%. So I know that if one goes down, I can still function, but if two go down, then we've got a much larger issue. So it really is important to reuse these components to get the best visibility. So I know it can be tempting to create different components for different BSM groups, different overall BSM groups, but it's not really the best practice. Best thing to do is to reuse those components, and then we get to see who the outage really affects, what applications and services are needed, and what is going to be affected by those systems going down. So if my Apache services go offline, what else is it going to affect? Is it going to take down email, phone, other applications, or is it going to simply just, is it going to mildly impact someone, or is it going to take down the whole show? But we need to know how our applications function. So when we're building out our BSM, from scratch, we need to know how is it that our application functions. So that is, we need to know what makes up our company website, or our engineering system, or our sales system in this hypothetical example again. And we need to know if something goes down, is it an outage, or is it a full-on system outage, or is it just an extra feature? Is it something tacked on that's nice to have, or is it a service affecting issue? And when we're building out these BSMs, this is how we reflect it. So we build out the architecture, the hierarchy, by dragging and dropping. So I know that, for example, I've got my virtualization technology, then storage, then networking, then database, then web front end. So if I want to indicate some kind of hierarchy here, I can. But this is how we indicate how that BSM is built out. And we can see that in our front end views. So if I go and investigate, I can see how this is displayed. So that hierarchy in my configuration screen is exactly the same as the hierarchy I see here. So virtualization, storage, network, database, Apache front end. And here we can see that I've got one Apache system down, but it's still within my 75% availability zone. So hopefully you can see over the WebEx that there's a grey outline around some of these systems. So around my Apache servers, I've got a grey outline here. I've got a grey outline around 3 of my database servers, one of these SAN servers, and one of these network servers. It's this grey outline that indicates the availability zone. But I also have what hopefully you agree is a slightly nicer, 1 second guys, a slightly nicer overview of our system. So this is our new and upcoming BSM view. This will be available in Opsview 6.4, which will be coming around after the summer, possibly sometime in October or November. So this is currently available for our Opsview Cloud customers, and we are at the moment getting ready to release it for Opsview on-premise. So this is the same view and the same data as we saw on our original BSM, but we can see it's hopefully a bit nicer. We can see a lot more information. We've got a lot more control here. So we've got my one Apache system is down, but it's still within the gray outline. It's still within the 75% availability. And if I hit our expand all button here, we can see which services are affecting the system here. So at the moment, I've got one service down, and I've got one host down, and we can see that the Apache stack is at 99.98 availability within the last day or so. And then when it fixes, it fixes itself in almost real time. So having fixed that service or having broke that service, this view is updated in almost real time. So it takes about 30 seconds, sometimes less, to filter through when we detect an issue. And you can see almost immediately the service that's gone down, which host is affected, and how much of an impact that has on your overall system. So you're probably well ahead of me, but if we have another outage where we're outside of that 75% threshold, and where 2 of my web servers go down, and I know that this means my application will no longer function as expected, as you can see, our availability starts to drop. Everything goes red. We can follow the red line straight through to see which systems are down, which of our nodes are down, and we can go and investigate that particular issue. So you get a really nice insight into what the issue is and how bad the effect of that issue actually is. Is it something that you need to panic over? With the website being completely offline, we probably do. If it's just a couple of servers out of a much larger cluster, and they're just down for routine maintenance, and your website is mildly impacted but still up, for example, then you don't have to worry so much about it. So you do get that insight into the status of your important services, and that's where BSM is really good. You get a high-level overview of your environment. So here, for example, this is the exact same data we were looking at. So I'm looking at my databases, my web servers, and I can see that 2 of them are down, or I can see that 2 of them were down. There's issues on 2, but what I can't see is just how badly these systems being down, what kind of effect that really has on my environment. And with BSM, both classic and our new BSM, you can see just at a glance exactly what's going on in your system. Is everything still working, or is something impacted? And it's the exact same data. If I was to break and if I was to cause an issue and our website was to go offline again, the only thing that changes on here is another critical appears right here, but the view doesn't really change a huge amount. But that one extra system going down means that, again, our website is offline, and we can see at a glance in both views exactly what impact that system going offline has, and we can get that simply by using reusable components. So here I can see that it impacts both the engineering and the website teams, and that's because my Apache stack, apologies for repeating myself, my Apache stack is in both the website and the engineering BSMs. The more we do this, the more useful our BSMs can become, because we can see how many people are affected by that system going offline. So we usually group our BSMs together by function, so by cluster or stack or pod or some other common denominating function. So in my cases, I've got storage, database, web server, networking, and virtualization, but it could be anything for your environment. And then we create a host template to monitor what we need. So I'm monitoring my Apache status or my MySQL status for whether my storage array is online and if there's still got space in it. Just low-level things like that. And it's these host templates that we use when we give each component a failure condition. So you saw there that I was giving each component a failure condition. So again, 75 for the Apache stack, 60% for my MySQL servers. I need this is my single point of failure, so I need this Hyper-V system to be online the whole time, so I'm allowed none to fail. So you give each one a failure condition, like I say, you reuse it if you have to. And then you drag and drop your BSM components into the right order on your BSM overview. Like we see here, if we order them as we need, this is the order they're displayed when we either look in both the new and improved view we're getting soon, or indeed the classic view. The exception being when there's an issue, and that's moved right to the top of the list. So if there's an issue on my Apache stack here, that's moved right up to the top of the list. That's not the case for what we call classic BSM. It's still at the bottom of the list. And the views are intended to be dynamically resizable now. So, I mean, they were and are for Opsview 6.3. This is resizable, and if another issue occurs, if another service goes offline, for example, it's very quickly updated, and you see the change almost immediately. Should see two go offline any moment now. So we'll see this one, and then the second one goes offline, we'll see everything update and reanimate pretty quickly. Again, on the new one, you'll see the same thing. So these are almost real-time views of your environment. And when things are fixed, they're fixed. And then again, updated almost in real time. And with this data, we can do quite a few useful things. So we can create custom dashboards using our BSM views, which I'll get into in just a moment. We can configure BSM specific notifications, which is really useful for operations teams where they don't necessarily need to be emailed constantly about every single issue, but do need to be emailed if an overall service is impacted or is having issues. And here we see I've got a notification profile BSM impacted and BSM offline, so you can differentiate between the two. And perhaps really usefully is being able to run custom reports to analyze our BSM services performance and availability, and I'll run through that as well. So if we go to monitoring and then dashboards, our BSM dashboard we created slightly earlier. And you can see the exact same information and the exact same overviews that we were seeing on our normal BSM screen, but this time they're hidden within they're tucked in within a dashboard, and this gives us a bit more flexibility and customization. So I can have my BSM overview here. I can see that a couple of things are impacted. I can see that, and the two are okay. So these are also updated real time. So when something goes offline, we can see just how bad the impact is. But we can have that on a dashboard, and I can have that right next to. So I've got the high level overview. I can also have that right next to a standard performance graph. So I can have that right next to, say, a CPU graph for my databases or my Apache servers. For example, or I can have that right next to a list of events for either a BSM specific set of servers. So if I want a list of events for my website, I can do that. So I can see just what happened on these servers. I can see various statuses went on and offline, critical and okay. So I can look for a trend here. I can see what happened. I can see if they were fixed. I can see the output and the comment on most of these servers. So if I hover over this, I can see, for example, Neill broke by the API. If you look right at the bottom, you can see the text when it's fixed. There's quite a lot you can do with dashboards and BSMs. So you can combine this high-level overview with this low-level performance data, low-level CPU data, low-level event data. You can see just how much of an impact various issues have on your. Let's actually add 5 CPU graphs right next to all of this BSM info. So I've got my website over here. We can change the label, our event table, our CPU performance graphs, and then our overall BSM statuses. And you can imagine having this up on some kind of large screen in a NOC or an office or somewhere. You'd very quickly be able to see if something here was red or if something here had gone offline. You can rearrange it however you need it to. So if I wanted this events table over here under something a bit more usable, you can obviously drag and drop your little dashlets around. But as soon as things go red or green, you very quickly spot that something was not quite right. And this is perhaps more useful than, or more, you perhaps respond to this faster than you would to another red critical going here, for example. And in on a similar note, if we were to set up notification profiles so that a specific team was told if the BSM for the website went offline, that would be a pretty urgent alert. You would know that something was not quite right if enough systems had failed that the BSM website was being reported offline. So you would have this as a high priority alert. It could maybe go out via email and PagerDuty and Slack, or a push notification for your mobile devices. So anyone who's on the correct role, so maybe it's anyone who's an administrator would get told that this BSM service had gone offline. All we need to do is select the services we're interested in. So maybe website and marketing, or maybe website and engineering. And for this website offline, we can say where these are offline, or we can set if our availability is below 98% or 90%, or whatever the availability alarm we might want is. In this case, we'll leave it at 99.99. So as soon as the availability went below 99.99% for either all components or one of our created components here, so we've got Apache, the 5 components we were playing with before. So if I wanted to be told about that becoming impacted, or the availability of that specific component dropping below a certain level, I could do that. And I can do that with my website impacted too. So all I've done is made sure that impacted is selected here for the exact same selection. So I'm interested in if the below business services, so we've got website, are impacted, alert me by email. And this just avoids the wrong team being told about something that's being alerted by, or woken up by, or PagerDuty'd by, or whatever it may be. They don't necessarily need to be told about every single server coming up and down or being put into maintenance. And if the entire BSM is offline, then you can be pretty sure that you've got an actual problem. As with most things, Opsview, it's hugely customizable. You can decide what to include in this list and which users to apply that to, and at what time of day that might want to go out, using time periods and the usual notification options we've got, so we can decide whether it's going to be overnight or during work hours or whatever it may be, and we can decide who gets it by selecting the role, just to make that clear. I think the final thing I've got is reporting on BSMs. So the useful thing about BSMs is we can report on our summary, on our uptime, on our overall BSM group, and we can have our uptime as as close to 100 as it was, even if some servers had come in and out, because we've built in that fault tolerance into our BSM. And what I mean by that is we're reporting on the availability of the whole overview. So, for example, we're reporting on this figure here, so website online 98.68%. Not the individual availability of each specific component or each specific system, but the overall availability of the website. So if this Apache stack had remained online, but we've been modifying 25% of the hosts within it, our website would have remained online. So when it comes to running this report, if I go to and I select my website, and then we'll have it from the month right up until the 1st of August. So we choose last month. So this will be, we can set our target level here. So I've got an SLA target of 99.99. I've chosen my website. Time period is 24 hours a day. And the report end date was the 1st of August. If I then hit OK, this will generate me a report of how available my website was for that month. So I've got my SLA here, and we can see what it actually ended up as, and we can see which component it was that caused us the issue. So that means that my MySQL servers had a little bit of downtime, and these Apache servers had a little bit of downtime. And if we scroll through, we can see just how available each component was on each specific day. So we can see when we had issues. And if you look closely, you'll see that we've got a little bit of red in some of these stacks now, as we spotted some issues on some of our servers. So this gives us, again, using that BSM, using these components of what comprises our website. You can see that at some point I renamed the Apache stack to NC July, or I switched it out because we've got 6 days of this component and 24 days of my Apache Stack component. Whereas everything else we've got 30 days. So for 6 days we had a different component part of it powering this website. But we can also see that that was down 0.74% of the time. So we can see we get a very useful availability metric here, as opposed to the availability of individual servers or service checks or hosts. And with that, that's the end of our conference. Helen, do we get any questions?
There's a few clarification questions actually, Neil. So the first one is BSM part of Opsview Monitor and Opsview Cloud subscription?
It is, yeah. So I mean, it's all part of your normal license. This comes bundled with a standard Opsview install, so you should be able to use this right out of the box, right out of the gate.
And Neil, regardless of the version that people are on, they still have access to BSM?
Yeah, they do, yeah. So even on Opsview 5, it'll be under monitoring and BSM summary. It might be the menu system is slightly different, but you've still got BSM. So as long as you're on Opsview 5, you do have BSM, and you'll have a view very similar to this if you're on Opsview 5 as well.
And then if you're on Opsview Cloud, you see the newer version.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're on Opsview Cloud, you see the nice, shiny new Investigate here with our expanded controls. And
I see that. That's so much easier to follow and see where the issues are.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to be a bit cheeky now, Neil, because I know that you've been working with Scott, VP of Product and Partners, on a BSM Quick Start package. So that's coming out in this, just after the summer?
Yeah, we should hopefully be. So we've been working on that for a little while now. That should hopefully be coming out this autumn, where we'll try and help customers get set up with creating BSMs. So we'll try and understand your environment, and we'll suggest host templates and BSMs for customers to get them started, and to really help them get the most out of BSM.
I know that was a bit naughty giving people a head, but for everyone that's on the WebEx, if you are interested in that BSM Quick Start before we officially launch after the summer, do speak to your account manager, or feel free to email me, helen.carroll, carroll@opsview.com, and we'll look to help you and get you set up with the BSMs quicker than the package before that comes out. I don't think we've got any other questions, Neil. So thank you very much for delivering this today. Much appreciated. Thank you to everyone that's joined us. We will be sending out the recorded version tomorrow, and look forward to seeing you all on the next one, which is the 25th of August. And it's on monitoring cloud technologies and things like Kubernetes and containers as well. So that's the 25th of August. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, everybody.